In the annals of ancient Greek lore, the world of man did not ascend from savagery to civilization. Rather, it cascaded from a golden peak of divinity down into the bleakest depths of depravity. The ancient poet Hesiod once used 5 metals and eras to chronicle this shifting tapestry of human destiny. This millennia-long saga began at a dreamlike origin, an epic where gods and men walked hand in hand. The first generation of mankind, fashioned by the gods, existed in the remote and mythical Golden Age. In those days, the ruler of the heavenly court was not Zeus, but his father, the Titan Cronus. O mortal, the humans of the Golden Age possessed virtues akin to the gods and lived a life of divine tranquility. They knew no labor, no sorrow, and were completely untainted by the concept of poverty. Herds of cattle and sheep roamed the lush pastures, and the bountiful earth selflessly yielded its most abundant fruits without the need for tilling. They were blessed with ageless bodies. Time could leave no trace of decay upon their brows. No matter how many years passed, their limbs remained as vigorous and fleet-footed as in their youth, entirely untouched by disease. They spent their lives in perpetual feasting and boundless joy. And when the end assigned by fate drew near, they experienced no agonizing struggle, but rather fell into a serene and peaceful slumber, drifting away into eternal rest. And when the end assigned by fate drew near, they experienced no agonizing struggle, but rather fell into a serene and peaceful slumber, drifting away into eternal rest. Why the gods allowed this flawless golden age of humanity to vanish remains a riddle that myth has never deigned to answer. Yet, when the Moirai decreed that this generation must depart from the earth, they were elevated to a sublime and sacred destiny. They entered the realm of the divine to become the benevolent guardian spirits of mankind. Cloaked in thick mist, they travel across the earth, rewarding the righteous, punishing the wicked, and upholding the last vestiges of justice among mortals. Next, the poet Hesiod, chronicler of the ages, foretold the coming of the third generation. A race of bronze, terrible and strong, vastly different from the silver generation that came before. Sprung from ash trees, their hearts were hard as adamant, and their might was immense. Their only concerns were the lamentable works of war and their own insolent pride. But great as they were undone by their own hands. They descended into the dark and chilling house of Hades, nameless, leaving the bright light of the sun behind. But then Zeus made a 4th generation on the fruitful earth, nobler and more righteous. A godlike race of hero men who are called demigods, the race before our own. Grim war and dread battle destroyed some of them, but to others, Zeus the Father gave a living and an abode apart from men, at the ends of the earth, in the Isles of the Blessed. After them came the 5th. I wish I were not among the men of the 5th generation, but either had died before or been born afterwards, for now truly is a race of iron. Men will never rest from labor and sorrow by day, and from perishing by night. The father will not agree with his children, nor the children with their father, nor guest with host. And then Eidos and Nemesis, their beautiful forms wrapped in white robes, will go from the wide-pathed earth, and forsake mankind, to join the company of the deathless gods. And bitter sorrows will be left for mortal men, and there will be no help against evil. A profound sense of deference for the gods was lost forever. The father of gods, Zeus, then created a 3rd generation of men, the race of the Bronze Age. This generation was entirely unlike that of the Silver Age. They were cold-blooded weapons born purely for conquest. Cruel and violent, their minds were occupied solely by endless warfare and mutual slaughter. They despised the sweet fruits born of the earth and refused to till the soil, choosing instead to feast only on the raw flesh of animals. Their wills were as unyielding as adamant, devoid of any capacity for mercy. These bronze humans grew to gargantuan robust proportions, with broad shoulders and immense arm strength. In an era before the birth of iron, they wore armor of bronze, wielded weapons of bronze, dwelt in fortresses of bronze, and tilled the earth with bronze tools. Yet despite their towering might and destructive power, these war machines possessed no defense against the law of mortality. They fell in massive heaps during their relentless, bloody conflicts. Upon leaving the bright sunlit earth, their souls were deemed unworthy of divinity. Carrying nothing but eternal resentment, they descended into the grim, terrifying, and sunless underworld of Hades. Once the brutal bronze race had completely annihilated itself, Zeus created a 4th generation upon the earth. These were the celebrated demigod heroes of ancient legend. This generation was far more noble and just than the silver and bronze races before them. They inhabited the earth, living honorable lives sustained by the rich abundance of the land. However, the destiny of a hero is irrevocably bound to fire and epic tragedy. And they, too, eventually became entangled in unavoidable wars of succession and blood feuds. At ancient Thebes, countless young heroes perished before the blood-soaked gates of the city, fighting over the kingdom of King Oedipus. At distant Troy, heroes boarded massive fleets to reclaim the peerless beauty Helen, ultimately leaving their bones to bleach upon the desolate Trojan plains. When they had finished their glorious but catastrophic journeys on earth, Zeus, out of respect for their heroism, dispatched their souls to the uttermost ends of the world. The Isles of the Blessed, Elysium. Situated in the deep recesses of the ocean at the edge of the world, these islands were a paradise of everlasting spring. There, the weary souls of the heroes lived a tranquil, joyous, and immortal existence, where the divine bounty of the earth yielded sweet fruits 3 times a year as the ultimate reward for their mortal valor. When the heroes departed, the wheel of the world turned to its final, darkest layer. Reflecting upon this final epic, the great ancient poet Hesiod could not help but utter his most sorrowful lamentation. Would that I were not among the men of this 5th generation, but had either died before it or been born after it, for now truly is a race of iron. This is the era in which we now reside, the Iron Age. It is a time of absolute corruption and decay. In this age, human life is fraught with ceaseless misery and sin. Men toil and grieve by day and night, their souls never finding a moment of peace. The gods continuously heap new tribulations upon them, yet their greatest afflictions spring from the darkness of their own selfish hearts. Upon the iron earth, all morality is abandoned, and all sacred bonds are severed. Fathers no longer cherish their sons, and sons openly despise their fathers. Hosts refuse to welcome the travelers at their doors, and friends share nothing but suspicion and malice. The mortal world is choked with deep-seated vendettas. Even biological brothers can no longer speak with candor or look upon each other with love. Gray-haired parents receive neither sympathy nor respect from their offspring. The elderly are forced to endure shameful insults and wretched neglect. Heartless humanity. They have completely forgotten the final judgment that the gods will inevitably deliver, utterly disregarding the debt of their upbringing. In this world, might makes right, and the deceiver reigns supreme. Every man plots in the shadows of his mind to bring about the destruction of his neighbor. Honesty, virtue, and justice receive no reward, while the wicked and the predatory thrive and are bathed in glory. Fairness and restraint are mocked as weaknesses. The evil slander the good, shouting lies and swearing false oaths. And this, in truth, is the root cause of humanity's inescapable wretchedness. Malice, discord, and venomous envy follow every mortal like a shadow, ensuring that the brows of men are forever knit with sorrow. At last, the hour of ultimate despair arrives. Seeing that humanity is beyond redemption, the goddesses of Eidos, shame, and Nemesis, indignation, who once walked among mortals as the guardians of conscience, abandon the earth. Wrapping their beautiful forms in pure white robes, they sever their ties with the mortal realm and fly back to the eternal world of the gods on Mount Olympus. With the departure of the divine, nothing is left to the humans of the Iron Age but bitter grief, unyielding ruin, and a despair that sees no end.